My 30s are right around the corner, and whether I look it or not, I actually turned 30 this May. I can't believe it, and I have so many thoughts on this topic, and I want to share them all with you because maybe you're turning 30, or you just turned 30, or maybe you turned 30 in 2026, but whatever that may be, if you're approaching your 30s like I am, this video may be for you. If you don't know me, I'm Sahara, the borderline millennial. I am currently sharing the journey of my 30s, celebrating milestones, exploring cozy routines, and essentially just living with intention. If those are some of the things that you're interested in, then we should definitely be friends and you can join me on this journey. Today, out of all of those categories, I'm definitely going to be talking about the navigating this journey through my 30s. I'm currently 29 and I turned 30 on May 6, 2025, and I'm just starting to have a lot of feelings about that. Of course, I had a lot of feelings as I turned 29, knowing that this was going to be the last year that I have in my 20s, and also knowing that I lost a good chunk of my 20s to COVID and the overall pandemic. And so these 20s weren't exactly what I planned on them being. And if I'm being quite honest, I didn't actually make a plan for how I wanted my 20s to look. All I knew is that I needed to go to college, I needed to then do a master's, and then I needed to get a job and start my life and then just figure it out from there. But going into my 30s, I definitely want to have more of a plan for how I want this decade to look, especially this first year of my 30s, because I think that's really going to set the foundation for the rest of my 30s, knowing there's going to be a lot of changes and a lot of shifts. And so I really just want to create a vision that represents what I'm hoping my 30s will be. For 2025, I did decide to do a vision board where most of the vision board, I think, has to do with how I feel as I'm approaching my 30s. And I'm looking at my vision board less of a way of what I want exactly 2025 to look like and more of how I want to enter my 30s. So it's a little bit of a 2025 vision board, but it's also a journey into my 30s vision board. So I'm going to put that whole vision board right here so you can see it. And I'm going to kind of use that as points of reference when I'm discussing some of the things that I want to learn and I want to achieve as I go into my 30s. Something about 2025 just feels incredibly momentous. Of course, it is the mark of a new quarter of this century that we're in. Like 25 is a huge number. We're already a quarter of a way through the entire 20th century. And that just feels really momentous. But also, of course, it's because I am turning 30. I think 30 is just a huge thing. I feel like it's the first time in our lives when we feel like we have a little bit more control over our lives and we have enough knowledge to be able to have a good trip into the next decade. I feel like when you're going into your 20s, you think you know everything, but you truly don't. And I'm not saying that going into my 30s, I do know everything, because that's certainly not the case, but I definitely know a lot more. I think I'm definitely more intentional with my life, and I'm definitely just thinking more about the future and how my present day life relates to that future. So I think I'm just going in with a greater mindset and just more knowledge that I'm hoping will make my 30s even better than my 20s were. I know a lot of people have different opinions when it comes to aging. A lot of people dread aging, but I myself am one who've always looked forward to aging and to growing up. I've always felt that the best is yet to come, and that of course it's important to be present and enjoy life where it's at, but I also love looking to the future and looking forward to what's next and being able to plan for that next step. And that's something that I'm excited to do for this entire new decade of my life. I've also really loved aging throughout my entire life because I am by far one of the youngest people in my family, both my immediate family and also my extended family. I'm the youngest of 8 siblings, and my next oldest sibling, like my next sibling closest to me in age, is 6 years older. And then the biggest age gap I have between me and one of my siblings is my eldest sister, and we have a 16-year age gap between us. So pretty much my entire life, I've been feeling like I couldn't relate to my siblings. I felt like I was always catching up to everyone and to what they were doing, and what I'm doing today is something they did 10, 15 years ago. And so I'm always feeling like I've been playing catch up. So as I've gotten older, especially as I've approached my 20s, I felt like I was a lot more closer to them in terms of like how I can relate to them, what they're going through in their life, our maturity levels, our knowledge levels, our passions. And that's been really great. However, of course, once I felt like I was starting to close that gap, they went and they started their own families. They got married, they had kids, they bought a house, they had all these different things going on. And here I was getting my bachelor's degree and living on my own for the first time and having my first real job when they were like on their third, fourth, or fifth real job. So I just felt like every time I feel like I'm inching closer to them, I get a little bit further away. Something I've learned is that the older we get, the less of a gap there seems to be in terms of life experience and kind of understanding and relating to each other once we're older. So obviously when I was 6 and my oldest sister was 16 years older than me, there's nothing we're gonna have in common. There's nothing that we can talk about that's gonna make sense to either one of us. However, now that I'm gonna be 30 and my sister is in her mid 40s or my other sister is in her late 30s, I feel like the playing field is a little bit more leveled. Obviously, there are just huge things that we're just never gonna catch up with each other on, but I do feel like a lot of the things that we're gonna be going through are gonna be easier to talk about or easier to relate to, just because once you've hit a certain age of, being older, I feel like there's less huge milestones and less huge life changes that you necessarily go through as quickly as you do when you're a teen or in your 20s. So there's like less things to kind of make up time for. So I guess that's all to say that I'm really excited about being older because it's going to give me a greater opportunity to relate to so many of the people that I love in my life who just happen to be 5, 10, 15, 20 years older than I am. And then lastly, of course, I'm really excited to turn 30 and to enter this new decade of my life because I feel like I spent my 20s trying so hard to figure so many things out, to lay the foundation of what I want my life to be or what I thought I wanted my life to be. And I just spent 10 years growing and learning and making mistakes. And I'm going to continue growing and learning and making mistakes. But I feel like I've grown, learned, and made enough mistakes now to know a few more things going into my 30s. I feel like I've laid a really good foundation for how I want my life to continue to be and to evolve to be so that I can go in here feeling a little bit more prepared. I've laid out the groundwork and now I feel like I'm gonna see some of the fruits of all of that labor, and that's just something that I am really excited about and I just cannot wait to see. So now that I've kind of gone through how I'm feeling about turning 30 and entering this new decade of my life, there are two things that I want to talk about. One is what I hope to learn in my 30s, and then the other is what I hope to achieve in my 30s. So a lot of these things are actually going to relate to each other. I think what I learned has a lot to do with what I hope to achieve. I think certain things just go hand in hand, but I am just so excited to continue learning, to continue making achievements for myself and with my husband and with my family and friends. And so if that's something that you're worried about, or if that's something that's been on your mind a lot, I hope that this list of what I'm looking forward to in my 30s gives you something to look forward to yourself. I don't think that turning 30 or entering a new decade in your life is something to dread or something to be afraid of, but rather just another chance to make changes, to grow, to learn new things, and to just become the best version of yourself and to continue evolving. So I'm hoping that my list of what I want to learn and what I want to achieve can inspire you and also help you feel comforted in knowing that you're not going through this alone. And we're turning 30 together, and this is our first time ever being in our 30s, so we're not going to know everything, and I hope no one is expecting you or me to know everything. I'm certainly excited to get into this list. I'm really excited to hear some of what you're looking to achieve and what you're hoping to learn. So as we go along, if anything sparks a little thought bubble for you, just go ahead and put it in the comments. And obviously while I'm here, and if you've been interested in what I've been talking about so far, please give me a subscribe. You can like this video and we can continue this journey of our 30s together. So let's talk about what I want to learn as I go through my 30s. Life is all about growing and changing and evolving, and that's not gonna stop once I turn 30. So here are some of the things that I want to learn. The first one is new hobbies. This could be brand new hobbies or even hobbies that I used to be into as a child and that I want to pick back up again. I feel like so many of the people that I've seen as they've turned 30, they say that a lot of the things they find comfort in are similar to things they loved and found comfort in when they were in their teens. So I think the movie 13 Going on 30 makes a lot of sense because I feel like a lot of the things that I was into when I was 13, I feel like I'm gravitating towards again now that I'm about to be 30. Like, I was obsessed with Twilight when I was 13 and in my teenage years, and I literally just watched Twilight, the first movie, like 2 weeks ago. It is just always a comfort to me, and I love it. I think musically, I'm still into early 2000s music when I was a teen, and it still brings me comfort today. One thing I want to continue learning about is just new hobbies and reintroducing myself to the hobbies that I used to love. I used to love sewing all the time when I was younger, and I want to get back into that. But I also have never tried crochet, and I feel like that might be really fun to learn in my 30s. There's also just so many different hobbies I feel like I don't even know about yet, but I'm keeping an open mind to learning when I'm in my 30s because I don't want to just go through life knowing that I don't have anything to come home and do. Like, it's one thing to come home, watch TV, eat dinner, go to bed, but I want to have a little bit more substance in my life when I turn 30. I want to do hobbies, whether it's hobbies that I do at home, hobbies that I do with my husband, or hobbies that we do outside of the house. So I'm really excited to learn some new hobbies once I turn 30. The next is learning the ins and outs of my body. Women, we're amazing. We are so amazing at so many things, and as much as we try, it is so hard to keep up with what our bodies are doing and what is going on with our bodies overall, inside and outside. When we're a teenager, we're worrying about puberty, menstruation, acne, our just physical appearance, things like that. And I mean, that doesn't stop once you get out of your teens. That's still something that I'm learning about today. And as I go into my 30s and I'm thinking about starting a family and getting pregnant and all these different things, there's just so much more that I have to learn about my body. And I really just want to continue learning about that. A couple of years ago, like during COVID, I ended up reading a book called Period Powder. I'll link it below or I'll put the picture here, but I read the book Period Power, and there was so much I learned about menstruation cycles and just my body overall as a woman who menstruates and has a period every month that I had no idea about. And I've been having my period since I was like 12 years old. So there is constantly things going on with my body that I feel like I can learn more about. And I think it's going to be very important for me to continue learning about my body as it continues to change as I get older. So that is just a really big priority for me and something that I want to continue learning about going into my 30s. Kind of on the same topic of learning about my body is learning about motherhood. I just got married in 2024. And we're waiting a little bit till we start having our own family, but I know that's on the horizon. And I know that motherhood is a thing that I personally want to experience and that I'm really excited for. But I also know that after watching my sisters become moms, my sister-in-laws become moms, my cousins become moms, that there is so much that you learn as a person once you become a mother and once you become a parent in general. I've been able to witness some of the things that they've been able to learn, but there is nothing that can compare to what it's going to be like once I actually become a mom. So I just know that I am going to have an entire new bank of knowledge in my head that is strictly dedicated to motherhood once I'm in my 30s and I hit that next milestone in my life. So that is obviously going to take up a big chunk of my headspace, and I'm excited for it. The next one is home ownership. So this one is a goal of mine. It's a goal of my husband and I's, and we really desperately want to become homeowners. And I just know that there is so much that goes into home ownership that I don't know about. My parents and my siblings and some of my friends own homes, and I've watched them learn about home maintenance, about home laws, about HOAs, about paperwork, and so many different things that go into owning a home. And that is something I'm excited to learn about because I've already started learning a little bit about the home buying process. That's something my husband and I are looking into because that's obviously a huge milestone and we're hoping to reach maybe in 2025, maybe 2026, hopefully in the early part of me being 30. I just know that if we're learning this much now, just looking into even starting the process of buying a home, that we're going to learn so much once we actually have that home in our own name. So home ownership is something I am looking forward to learning about. So the next thing I'm looking forward to learning about more is about investing and retirement planning. A lot of my late 20s actually was just learning financial literacy in general. I do have a business degree and you learn a lot about like finance and econ and stuff like that, but you're never really taught about your own personal financial situation. And I feel like that's something that I've had to go out and learn on my own, or I've had others teach me about it or talk to me about it, because you just don't get that type of education in school, or it's not also talked about very often. I feel like women in particular don't necessarily have avenues where we can freely talk about our finances, about our income, about anything when it comes to money. I think there's a lot of shame built around it. There's a lot of secrecy built around it. So I've really just had to take it upon myself to go out and find the information that I need to help me grow and to be more financially literate. And so now I do feel like I have a better hold and a better grasp on understanding my money, our money as a unit, or my husband and I, and things like that. And so the next step that I want to take is, of course, learning more about investment and our retirement planning, because we are a family now, we are a unit. It's not just me saving money in a 401k for myself, it's planning with my husband. Are we going to be good when we retire? How can we realistically retire, especially when we start adding like a family into the mix? So there's just a lot that I want to learn as I go through my 30s, because I think retirement planning and general investment and financial literacy is just going to be so important this point going forward for my entire life. Okay, and the last thing that I really hope to learn that's like a big pillar, because obviously there's a ton of things that I hope to learn and will probably learn that I'm not even thinking about now, but for these few pillars that are really prominent to me right now, the next one is commitment and partnership building. So like I said, I just got married in 2024, and my husband and I aren't the same people that we were when we first started dating in 2019. I mean, I can confidently say we're not even the same people we were 2024, like once that year started. We have grown together, we've gone through exciting times and tragedies together, and we've also just both evolved personally, and we will continue to evolve personally, especially because I feel like he's growing as an individual, I'm growing as an individual, and we're also going to be growing together, especially as we continue to grow our family and our life. So it's just going to be an entire learning process of relearning each other and continuing to learn each other and accept each other and be committed to each other as we go through these huge milestones and shifts in our life. If there's one thing my husband and I are really good at, it's always keeping love and respect at the forefront of our relationship, so that no matter what we're going through, we've kept those two at the forefront, and we're able to just continue to grow together and to evolve with one another. So as long as we can maintain those two, I know that there's nothing that we can't do together and no change that we can't tackle side by side. So now I'd like to move on and talk about things that I'm hoping to achieve in my 30s. A lot of these are actually going to relate to what I want to learn, because what I want to achieve, like buying a house and starting a family, obviously has to relate with things that I'm about to learn about in my 30s. But some of these aren't directly related, but I do want to share them anyway, because they're all just things that are at the top of my mind right now as I'm thinking about moving forward into my 30s. All right, so obviously the first one is buying a house. I live in Los Angeles, and if your housing market is anything like mine, then buying a house right out the gate might not be the first thing that you do. For me, we're looking at houses, we're looking at townhouses, and we're looking at condos. So we're looking at a few different types of property that we would like to own, but ultimately, hopefully in my early 30s, we're able to buy something that we can live in, that we can call our own, that we can create and shape into being exactly what works for us and what we want, because that is just the ultimate goal of so many people of my age. And I think it's so difficult to reach that goal in this current economy, in this day and age, but I think my husband and I are doing a pretty good job of preparing to get there, and we just need the economy to line up and to match up with us, because the housing market right now is not ideal for us to buy. But we have our fingers crossed. We're keeping a pulse on the market. We are saving our pennies. We are spending less, and we are truly hoping and planning to buy a house in the next couple of years. And then kind of hand in hand with that is starting a family. My goal, and in my ideal world, we'll have our house before we start having a family. I would love to be able to bring our new child into the world and into their home, into a home that we own and that we can make our own, and that is just completely ours. That might not be the case, but that's what I'm hoping for. One of the things I'm really hoping to achieve in my 30s is starting a family and having a unit of my own with my husband that is our own little It's our own little pod. It's our own little group, our own little family. And I've already kind of started looking at Pinterest boards for different things. Like, we're not planning that quite yet. We're not there quite yet. There's a few other things that we want to do with our lives just before we take that next step. But I just know in my heart that starting a family is something that's going to come in my 30s. Okay, so those are the two of the big goals that I feel like I kind of touched on a little bit when I was talking about things I want to learn. So now let's move away into some of the things that I didn't quite hit on yet. So the first one is career moves. I learned a lot in my 20s about work and career, but the thing I learned most in my 20s was that I learned what I don't want in a career and in my work. And I've learned that I don't want to work for anyone else. Like, I don't like the typical standard type of job where I work a position and there's like a weird hierarchy and then there's someone who owns it or the CEO or the figurehead or whatever. And I'm just basically working 9 to 5, putting money in someone else's pockets. Don't get me wrong, it's great, and I think it's fine if you're that type of person who wants to work their way up the corporate ladder and be like a VP or an exec or something like that, but I just don't think that is personally for me, and that's something that I've learned in my 20s after bouncing around in a few different jobs and a few different positions and working in a few different industries. That's just not what I want. However, I've also learned that I don't exactly know what I want either. I think a lot of people expect you to kind of figure out exactly what you want while you're in college and what you want your career path to be. Like, as soon as you get there, they're like, what's your major? And you're like, dude, I don't know what my major is. Like, I barely know what type of careers there are out there for me. So I don't exactly know what I want to do as I'm exiting my 20s and entering my 30s, but I do think that's okay because I'm not letting my questioning of my future career affect what I'm currently doing. I still have a really good job that I like. Of course, I wish it paid more, but that's okay because who has a job they like and also pays well these days? Like, I don't know anyone who does. It's either you love your job and you don't get paid well, or you get paid really well and your job is just not good for your mental health. I've been there, and either way, I think I prefer having a job that I enjoy over having a job that pays well. I would love to have both. And of course, one thing that I would love in my future career is actually being able to work for myself and to be able to pursue my creative endeavors in whatever that job may look like that I create on my own. I've always been intrigued by entrepreneurship. I don't think I'm going to own like a clothing brand or a restaurant or anything like that, but I think I have certain passions that I am able to turn into my own creative endeavor and to become an entrepreneur myself. And so that's something that I've thought about for a few years now, and I still think about it to this day. I even took time off to do freelance work for a little while, and that gave me some time to think about it too. Ultimately, when it comes to career moves, I'm hoping that in my 30s, I'm able to make certain moves that will put me in a position where I'm able to work for myself and potentially even start my own business of some sort. But we'll see how that goes. For now, I'm staying put, and I have all these ideas going on in my mind and in my notes app on my phone and in my Google Drive documents and things like that. So I'm just taking my time right now, learning a bunch of lessons when it comes to work and really just figuring out what it is that I want, what it is that will fulfill me spiritually, and what it is that will bring in enough money to sustain our life here in Los Angeles. And the next goal I have for things I want to achieve in my 30s is related to content creation, actually. So kind of hand in hand when it comes to my career goals and making career moves is the option of being able to do what I love to do, which is create content. I love being creative. I love figuring out new avenues to express my own thoughts, opinions, and my journeys. And I feel like content creation has been a unique opportunity for me to do that. I've been doing it for a few years now, and obviously I haven't taken off or become like a huge content creator to the point where it can become my main source of income. And I don't know if it'll ever reach that point. However, I do know that it is something I have loved doing for the past 4, 5, 6, 7, I don't even know how many years now, but it's something that I've been enjoying doing, and it brings me joy, and it's a true hobby of mine that I think I'm okay at doing, and it makes me happy. And so if content creation becomes a bigger part of my life in my 30s, I'll be happy. If it stays at the point of where it is right now, I'll also be happy. But I just don't ever want to lose that part of myself that loves making content and continues to make content. So in my 30s, I'm hoping to continue creating content and posting on YouTube and my blog and on Instagram and maybe even TikTok. But I'm also hoping to grow these avenues and see what I can turn this into and see how many amazing people I can meet out there and to reach and build a community of borderline millennials and people who are going through life just like I am right now. So if you're part of that journey right now, thank you for watching this and staying this long in the video. Or if you maybe found me somewhere else and are part of my journey on Instagram or just through my blog, that's also awesome. So thank you. And I hope my 30s brings more amazing content to create. So the next thing I want to achieve in my 30s is going into my healthy girl era. I, for one, have always been a big girl. From the time I was a little kid and I was literally towering over all of my classmates, or I had shirts that were the same size as everyone else's, but they didn't quite fit over my little big belly. I've always been a big girl, and that's okay. But one thing that I've been on and off my entire life is being a healthy girl. And I don't always correlate your size of how physically like big or small you are to your health level. That's not a huge correlation to me. But what I'm really focusing on going into my 30s is just being as healthy as possible. Of course, I'm talking physically healthy. I want to eat better. I want to get better sleep. I want to exercise more regularly and find exercise that I actually love enjoying and don't just do because I feel like it'll help me lose weight. I want to be mentally healthy. And on top of that, I want to be mentally healthy. I have struggled with anxiety in the past. I've struggled with a little bit of depression in the past. I've had times when I have been super incredible and on top of my own health, like mentally, and I've had times when I just let that be on the back burner. I've even had times when I didn't even know what mental health was or why it mattered to me. However, I have learned so much after having gone through a lot of anxiety, and I know how important mental health is to me, and I want my 30s to be the best era for my mental health ever. And then of course, I want my emotional well-being to be healthy as well. I want to be in tune with myself. I want to stop talking down to myself and having negative self-talk. I want my self-esteem to be at an all-time high, and I just want to generally feel really good and comfortable and confident with who I am, how I'm being, how I am perceived in the world, how I perceive myself, and just my overall sense of self. My 30s is going to be my era of being a healthy girl, or a healthy woman, should I say, because when you're in your 30s, you're not really a girl anymore. You're definitely a woman. So my next goal, I feel like, is something that a lot of us of my age have on their like vision board or on their yearly goals list, and that is to become debt free. I touched on this a little bit in my section when I talked about things that I want to learn, and of course, I have been learning about financial literacy and how to actually tackle debt and what debt means and what compound interest is and all these different things. And I feel like 2024 was the first year that I genuinely got a grip on my finances, because before I didn't even like budget. I would like not look at my credit card statement because I didn't want to see it. Like if I can't see it, it doesn't exist. But I realized that actually checking your balances every day, tracking your spending, tracking your expenses, tracking your budget is just a really important thing to do if you want to be debt-free and if you want to be financially free overall. And 2024, I was actually able to pay down a lot of my credit card debt. I was able to pay off a private student loan and just really get on top of my finances and make an actual plan to pay these things off going forward. Now, of course, this isn't something I was able to do alone. I think I could have done it alone, and I did do a lot of research like on my own, by my own will, but I also have a husband now, and it's not just my finances anymore, it's our finances. We have a car in our name. When we buy a house, that'll be in both of our names. When we have a family and we start saving accounts for our kids, like that's gonna be on us. We're gonna have a joint account pretty soon, and there's just a lot of things that it's not just about me anymore, and I don't want to be a hindrance on my partner. And I want our debt that's now ours to be gone. I know that might not mean that we don't have a mortgage, because like I'm not going to be able to pay cash for a house, like not in Los Angeles and not anytime soon. So we're obviously going to have a mortgage and maybe another car payment, but I'm hoping we can at least have our student loans paid off, our credit card debts cleared, any other private type loans that we may have. Like I'm just hoping that throughout our 30s, throughout my 30s, that we're able to just be as debt-free as possible. That is a huge goal. All right, so I have 2 more goals for you here. This next one is all about nurturing friendships and the connections that I have. So I'm not saying no new friends in my 30s. But I'm not saying that either. I'm pretty much just saying that I really want to prioritize the friends that I have gathered along this way to where I'm at today. I'm fortunate enough to have a really nicely sized community of people in my life. I have friends that I have had since elementary school, middle school, high school, college, and they are just the most amazing group of people that you'll ever know and that I've ever known. I am definitely guilty of not nurturing these friendships as much as I should or even want to. I think it's natural for anyone who is in their late 20s and going into their 30s to feel a struggle of being able to see their friends all the time. It's not like we live together like we were in college. It's not like we saw each other every day in class like we were in high school. Now it's has to be intentional when you want to see your friends. We all live in different areas. Yes, a lot of my friends do live in the greater Los Angeles area or that general like county, but it's a huge county. Like there are millions of people in Los Angeles and there are tons of little cities here. And it's just so difficult to geographically connect with each other, let alone adding in the factors of like home life, family life, work, just being busy with other friendships that we're all trying to maintain and seeing our families into that as well. I'm really hoping that in my 30s, I am able to be more intentional with creating time and making that effort to see my friends, to hang out with my friends, and to just continue nurturing and fostering those bonds. It might not be seeing each other every single month or every single weekend, but it might be we start an annual girls trip where we go to Joshua Tree and we just have a weekend where we are gossiping, catching up on live, reading our books, binging shows, or having karaoke nights. Whatever it is, I just want to set up more moments to see my friends and be with my girls, because as I grow up and as we're all navigating our 30s together and going through so many life changes, I think it's just going to be that much more important to have my girls and my friends by my side. So that is a big goal for me going into my 30s. And finally, my last goal of going into my 30s is not ever losing my sense of self. I think as I'm going into my 30s, knowing that I'm going into it already as a daughter, a friend, a wife, a niece, and all these different things, and then soon I'll be adding a mother. Not super soon, don't get your hopes up yet, but sometime in the near future or just general future, I'm going to be adding a mother to that. I'm also an aunt, and there are just so many different roles that I myself am going to have in this next decade of my life. There are going to be so many people that rely on me for different things. I am going to mean something different to so many different people, but at the end of the day, I never want to lose my sense of self. I want to make a promise to myself to always take time to give myself what I need, to take time for myself, to continue growing, to continue pursuing my passions and my hobbies, and to never lose sight of all of the things that make me. I think it's going to be so easy to get lost in all of these different roles that I'll be having in my 30s and lost in all these different things that I'll be doing, especially if I do end up being an entrepreneur or if I do start a family pretty soon. There are so many things that are going to be pulling me further and further away from myself. And I've seen that happen with other people in my life where they lose a bit of themselves as they enter these new milestones. And I don't want that to happen to me because I love myself, and of course I want to make changes, but at the end of the day, I love being Sahara. And a lot of the people in my life love that I love being Sahara, and they love that I am me. And I don't want to lose that, and I think women sometimes have difficulty holding on to ourselves because we're busy doing so many other things and being so many other people for other people. Being 30, I won't let that happen. I have my husband and I have my friends and I have my family to hold me accountable, and I'm hoping they're going to be the ones that help pull me back into myself if they see things and changes in me that I can't even see myself. So all that to say, I may be turning 30 and I may be entering an entirely new decade of my life that is full of changes and milestones, but I hope to never lose myself, and I will always be Sahara. The start of a new decade feels exciting, overwhelming, and just overall awesome, if I have anything to say about it. And I know it's going to come with a lot of lessons, a lot of mistakes, a lot of amazing achievements, and so many more different things that I can only grasp so much of right now because I'm just not there yet. However, I know that there is just a boundless amount of great things to come in my 30s, and I'm excited to go on this journey of my 30s with you, and that we are entering this new decade and new era together. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you got some inspiration for things that you can look forward to in the 30s that are coming up soon for us. Like, that is just so crazy to say, us 95 babies. But I hope you found something that you can take away from this video. And if you like this, and if you want to continue on this journey with me, don't forget to subscribe, turn on your notifications, and you can follow me on all the other platforms at Borderline Millennial. I'm Sahara, and I hope you have an amazing journey of your 30s. I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.